When it comes to dairy farming in the Nordic countries, we're always talking about the NTM, the Nordic Total Merit Index. But what makes the NTM one of the most progressive breeding value systems in the world? How can using the index boost the health and profit of your dairy herd? To explain the NTM in a simple and practical way, we've invited two experts to join us today. Kai Abrahamsen, Chief Veterinarian at VikingGenetics, and Hanna Driscoll, Product Manager for VikingHolstein at VikingGenetics. This is the BreedCast produced by VikingGenetics. I'm your host, Hielke Wiersma. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hielke.
Kai, you've been here before. It's good to have you back with us. So today we'll be talking about the NTM, or the Nordic Total Merit Index. It includes all the financial, economical, important traits for the breeds that we have. So it's the Viking Red, it's the Holstein, and the Jersey in Denmark, Sweden, and Finland. Kai, overall, what are the important traits in the NTM?
From a veterinary perspective, it is the health trait, it is udder health, it's hoof health, it's young animal survival, but it might be some other for the breeding part, as Hanna is covering.
Hanna, what from your perspective are the most important things?
Of course, I agree that the health traits are very important, but also the production traits and, of course, the conformation traits as well. So we have a lot of different sub-indices combined into 15 main traits, and all of them are important, but maybe it is different for our different breeds.
Yeah, because all of these different traits, they're weighted in differently. Tell us about that, Hanna.
The health traits have the highest weight in total in the NTM, approximately 45% of the total index. And the production and efficiency traits have 40% weight, and then the conformation traits around 15% weight in NTM.
So it is mainly its health and production.
Yes.
Because that's what benefits financially.
Exactly.
Yeah. So a lot of data is collected. Kai, how is the data collected in our countries?
All the data is collected in one database. So there's coming data from the farmer, all his registration in the farm. It's milk yield, it's easy calving. It's also coming from the veterinarian, where the treatments are coming in, if it's the veterinarian that are doing them. There's coming data from the hoof trimmer, data from slaughterhouse. So we get all the data from different sources, and in that way we have the possibility to put them together and use them in doing the breeding values.
How is that different from other countries?
I think the main difference is that it is almost all data that is going in from the whole country. It's not from some nucleus herds or for special chosen farms that has good or bad health. This is all over all the different types of farms, size of farms, and also in the 3 different countries in the Nordic Total Merit.
So we've been collecting that data for a lot of years. How far does this go back? I think within the Nordic countries we've been exceptionally good in collecting data. How long have we been doing this, Hanna?
A little bit more than 50 years, and I heard that the Swedish milking record system celebrates 125 years this year, so a few traits have been recorded for much longer than 50 years as well.
We have a question from one of our listeners today, Jesper from Denmark. He asks, what is it that makes NTM the balanced breeding goal?
We have a few traits in the NTM that has an unfavorable correlation, but we have balanced the breeding goal, so it is possible to make genetic progress in both. For example, udder health and fertility and longevity has a negative correlation to yield, but we have balanced the NTM, so you could make genetic progress in both.
What's your take on those things, Kai, in terms of from a veterinarian point of view, with the unfavorable correlations and the health?
You always have to balance the indexes. You cannot have it all. You cannot have a high yielding cow with no problems. There is a balance, what the capacity of the cow and how we are trying to get the best out of her. So as long as we can have a high production without harming the animal welfare, then it's very important to go for these traits.
Kai, you mentioned the amount of participation of our farmers in the Nordic countries that participate with registrations to one central database. We're talking a lot about that data is king, big data. Hanna, how is big data, how is this data beneficial for the farmers?
The more data and registrations that we have that we can base our calculations on, the higher reliability we can have in our indices. So more information is beneficial for the future generation of cows.
And that all goes into the NTM, of course. You also mentioned, Hanna, that some breeds that might be a little different. What makes the different traits in different breeds different in the NTM?
They have different strengths and different weaknesses, and they have different things that needs to be improved within the breeds. So, for example, Holstein, which are by breed very good in production, they need to have a little bit higher weight on reproduction and health traits instead. And for the Reds, it is a little bit opposite. They have a very good health, for example, and Viking Jerseys have very good fertility and calving traits. So for the Reds and the Jerseys, it's more weight on the production instead.
Now that we understand better what the NTM is, let's dive into some of the specifics of health and performance. Like you mentioned, Hanna, the Nordic farmers have been making all of these registrations since the 80s and breeding towards cows that are healthier and perform better in the dairy herds. How do the Nordic farmers look at these different health traits compared to maybe in other countries? Hanna, what's your experience on that?
In my opinion, the health traits are very important for the Nordic farmers because it is of economic importance to have a healthy cow in your barn. Maybe one of the reasons why the health traits are so important in the Nordic countries, maybe it is because our strict regulations when it comes to treatments of animals, for example. So you would like to have a high genetic level for health traits in your herd from the beginning to avoid diseases.
Kai, what's your veterinarian take on the cost of treating animals and the importance of that to breed for a healthier cow?
It is of very high economic cost to treat in the Nordic countries because most of the treatment is done by veterinarians. So there's a direct cost, but there's also a much higher indirect cost by where you have milk withdrawal because of antibiotic, you have lower milk yield in the next lactation, you risk that you have abortion, you have the metabolic diseases that is of very, very high impact on your economic output from the individual cow and also for the whole herd in that respect.
And we talk a lot about udder health and mastitis resistance, somatic cell counts. Kai, can you explain to us what is the difference between those things?
Yeah, the udder health is a combined index where we look at the free lactation from the cows, how many mastitis cases has there been, and for the same for the somatic cell count, it is also into the udder health. So if we look at the mastitis, it's an inflammation and often it requires antibiotic. we don't like to use that much antibiotic because we are looking into a growing resistance to antibiotics, and it causes also problems in humans. So reduction is needed also in the future. The somatic cell count often is a reaction on a mastitis, where we have the blood, white blood cell in the milk, and it's a reaction showing that something is going on an inflammation level. And it will reduce the next lactation or the milk yield in the next lactations. It is also giving the cow pain when you have a mastitis. It require extra treatment. So there's a lot of both direct and indirect cause and animal welfare in lowering the number of mastitis and having a better udder health in general.
Another thing that's that we include in the NTM and is very important is the hoof health. Hanna, we get real life data out there. So in commercial herds, hoof health is recorded.
Yes.
Tell us how that works.
The hoof health data is recorded by hoof trimmers, and they make one mark for every hoof. So we have 4 registrations per cow, and they also register if there is no problems with the hoof. So we get registrations for both healthy cows and cows with different types of problems, both mild hoof diseases and severe diseases.
And Kai, what's the impact on for a cow with the hoof disorder?
It is related to pain. That's the first one. And when a cow has pain, it doesn't move around as much. It doesn't eat enough. It's resting more. It has all the bad impact on having a high milk yield. It often leads to metabolic diseases because of the impact, the intake of calories too low. If you have automatic milking system, she is not so willing to go to the automatic milker, and in that way she will also lose milk.
One of the other things that I'd like to cover is the general health. It's a general thing. Couldn't we just say that we're just breeding for one index called general health? Kai, what do you think about that?
That would be nice, but it, like all the other traits, there's not a single bull that has very high on all traits. So it's always a compromise. So you can go for health, but you have to choose 3 or 4 general traits that you are going for in your herd, and then you can go more specific on the individual cow with a mating plan, suggesting 3 different bulls, so you can improve both on herd level and on individual level.
But we do have an index, Hanna, that's called general health. Mm-hmm. What covers that then?
It is metabolic diseases, reproductive diseases, and also feet and leg diseases. And we make the calculations from registrations from veterinarians.
Okay, so every time a veterinarian comes in and does a registration on some of these things, then that goes into that index.
Yeah.
So to summarize, what is the relationship between health and profitability? Kai, what's your veterinarian take on that?
You can have a cow with very high indexes, but if she is sick or lame, she is not able to perform, even she has the potential. So in that way, if the cow is not in the best shape, she will not perform in the way that we expect. And it will have the impact here and now, but it will also have the impact on her ability to give her genes to the next generation, because if she's not getting into heat or getting pregnant, you can have the best cow in the world, but with no offspring, it's a short-term solution. She will die in a few years. So you lose a lot of genetic progress if you have a high incidence of disease in your farm.
Hanna, any comments to that?
A healthy cow can live for a longer time and be more efficient and have a longer productive life. So it is profitable for the farmers to have healthy cows that can perform their best for as long time as possible.
And there's an ethical aspect in this as well, isn't there, Kai?
Yes, of course. We have to look at the animal welfare every time we are doing something. They are in our hands, and we should take care of them in the best way. It's not only by how we are feeding them, it's also about how we are housing them, how we are handling if they are going to slaughter. So we have the responsibility from the birth to we have slaughtered them in the end. So that's a huge responsibility. And you cannot just put it on the farmer. You also have, as a breeding company, a responsibility in this respect.
Thank you both for helping us so far. We have a few more questions, and towards health traits and the benefits of farmers doing so. One question is, how can farmers make the most out of their healthy cows through genomic testing, Hanna, and by selection and genomic testing?
If you do a genomic selection and your goal is to improve the health traits, that's your main focus, then you should use the information from the genomic tests and choose the cows and heifers with the highest numbers on those traits, and then inseminate them with bulls with very high levels on their health indices as well. And then you, in the next generation, will have heifers with very high genetic potential for the health traits. And you could also do the opposite if you find animals with lower indices on health traits. You can inseminate them with beef instead to not have heifers in the next generation with low values.
So what if the farmer says, I'm looking for an improved hoof health. Should one just go solely for improving hoof health, or is it better to use the NTM? Let's say that you can choose between two bulls. One bull is high NTM, higher than the other, but the one that's lower has the higher hoof health. Which one should one choose, Hanna?
Maybe you should choose both of them and use both of them in your herd, because if you take the bull with the highest NTM or very high NTM, you will make progress in all health traits because they have a very high correlation to the NTM. And then the other bull with a very good NTM and high indices for hoof health will also help you in your herd. So I would do probably a mix of both, I think.
So if you're pushed to choose, Hanna, let's say, should you go for the single traits or the NTM?
The NTM.
Why?
Because if you choose to go for NTM, you will make progress, high progress in the health traits, and you have a little bit of everything else at the same time. So in the end, you will improve both the health, the production, and the conformation of your cows.
Kai, if let's say you're a farmer in another country outside of our countries, what are your thoughts on the NTM there? Would it fit one-on-one, or how do you see that?
The NTM is based on data from the Nordics. So, of course, it fits one-to-one to the Nordic countries. But if you're going to other countries with very different condition, like when we was talking about the cows in Australia that is living having more extensive way of feeding, more out, more heat, then you need to adapt it to where you are. It would be wrong to take a high-yielding Holstein to an area where you don't can get enough food for the cow. Then you have a Ferrari, but you have a gravel road to drive on, and then you'll spoil your Ferrari.
Yeah,
that's one of the way to say it. So for going to extensive part of the world, you should go for a more all-round bull than the very top.
But maybe there, and that might be a discussion for single traits in an extensive system. Maybe the hoof health all of a sudden has a higher value than in our Nordic systems. Or Hanna, what do you think about that?
Yeah, of course. And of course, you have to maybe think a little bit different depending on the climate and the production system and what you're really aiming for in the end. And then you probably need to take a closer look to the specific traits. But if you look at specific traits and then the bull has a good NTM, a decent NTM, then you will make some progress in your herd.
So over the years, many traits have been added. The NTM was first launched in 2008 as an NTM across the Nordic countries, and has evolved, and traits have been added. Kai, which future traits do you see that could be added to the NTM?
We are working very much on the Safe Feed Index, and there has also been a podcast on that. I think they will have a very big impact on the future farming in the intensive part of the world, where we are a little bit fighting between feeding the animals and feeding the people. If we can have cows that is as efficient as today, but with 20% less feeding, then we have 20% more land for growing vegetable for people. So I think that would be a really strong tool in the future. But there might also be other on the health side where we can look into the genomics because we have the big data and can find new traits. It's only a year or two since we have the young animal survival put in, and there's also other that might be interesting, especially where we are looking at the metabolic diseases.
Hanna, which traits are you missing in the NTM?
I think traits related to climate will be next in line to have a bigger impact and be added with higher weights in the NTM. And then it is saved feed, as you mentioned, Kai. And there are also some ongoing discussions about methane emission. So that's what I think will be play a bigger role next.
Thanks for joining the BreedCast today, where we've examined the Nordic Total Merit Index and discussed how breeding for health and performance will benefit your farm and herd. If you'd like to learn more about the NTM, please visit our dedicated NTM area at VikingGenetics.com. Thank you, Hanna Driscoll, and thank you, Kai Abrahamsen, for sharing your valuable knowledge about the NTM and cattle breeding with us. Thanks to everybody out there for listening. If you have a topic that you'd like us to focus on in the next BreedCast episode, then reach out to us on BreedCast.com or message us on our VikingGenetics Facebook page. I'm Hielke Wiersma, and this is the BreedCast by VikingGenetics.